morning, viewers and listeners. Murielle Fellous with an episode of Rendezvous with Murielle, the podcast created to inspire you to go to the next level and go for your dreams so you can become magnetic to things, people, and even love. And today I have a guest that has, like I was telling her a minute ago, a very broad experience in very different things. So that's going to be a very rich interview. Her name is Jen Wittman. She's a business strategist, and whiz at teaching entrepreneurs to organize their lives and their business so they can have a six-figure financial success while making a big impact on the world. Jen is editor-in-chief of the popular online magazine Mindful Mavericks Magazine, of course, a certified transformational coach, and a total nerd with honors degree in psychology, nutrition, Italian language, and culinary arts. That's really dear to my heart, being French.
I'm sure.
Welcome, Jen. Good morning. How are you today?
Good. Thank you so much. So glad to be with you today.
I'm glad you're here too. And while I was reading your bio that is way longer than what I just read here, I was really amazed by the richness of your experience. So I'm really excited about our interview today because, like I said, it's going to be rich. Why don't you tell your story, in your own words, from going from it, I don't know where you start in all those degrees and experience to where you are today.
Sure. Well, really, if I started at the beginning, I went to college to become a lawyer, which is the craziest part of this. I went to college, I wanted to become an international attorney, and my degree was in psychology because I just thought for being, if I wanted to be a great attorney, I really had to understand people well. So I went to school for that. But as I was moving further along kind of in academia and I was doing kind of honors theses in psychology, I was looking around and seeing that a lot of people in academia or in law were really unhappy. They seemed to be working too much and they didn't have the lives that they wanted, but they may have enjoyed their profession, but their whole life wasn't really what they wanted. And at that point in my life, I just kind of really sat with myself and said, what do I want? I was only 22 at the time. I could be anything, right? And so I thought, well, what do I want? And what do I love? And I thought, well, I love food. I love Italy. I need to become a chef. So here I have these great degrees. I got into fantastic graduate schools. I turned it all away and said, okay, I'm going to become a chef. And I had been working in the restaurant industry since I was 13. And so I just really loved the excitement of being in a restaurant industry. So I went to culinary school. I became a chef. I worked and lived in Italy for a little while. And my husband and I decided to come back to the States after I had worked in Italy. And while we were here, kind of in transition, we were hit by a semi-truck. And this accident really changed the trajectory of my whole life. So leading up to, getting hit by the semi-truck, I was actually consultant for small mom and pop restaurants. And what I did was teach the small business owner how to act like a corporation in terms of creating systems while maintaining sort of their very special mom and pop thing so that they could have a restaurant that was sustainable, because a lot of restaurants that are just mom and pop restaurants go out of business because they just don't have systems in place. So that's what I was doing leading up to the accident. Then the accident happened and I had all of these injuries from it. I had frontal lobe damage. I went through I had a little bit of a mild traumatic brain injury. I had PTSD. And then I had a physical injury that really kept me out of the restaurant industry because it just requires a lot of hours on your feet. Even when you're consulting, your hands are in the restaurant. So at that point, I had to take a step back from just my entire life, my entire identity, everything, and I had to heal my body. And through that process, I really learned about healing. I really learned about taking charge of your health, taking charge of your life. And in that time period that I was healing, I was also diagnosed with this thyroid and autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's, which a lot of women have. And at the time, there were no options, really readily available or understood at how you reverse thyroid or autoimmune conditions without using medication. And I really didn't want to go on the medication. My doctor had actually steered me away from it and said, you can heal this yourself. But he didn't really give me a plan how. So part of my professional journey is actually from being hit by the semi-truck and being diagnosed with Hashimoto's, in that I wanted to take charge of my health and I wanted to get my life back. So I just learned everything you could about healing, and I ended up reversing Hashimoto's naturally. So at that point, I thought I was ready to kind of re-enter the world. And I just thought, well, how can I be of best service to the world? And I knew it couldn't really be in the restaurant industry in the way I had been. And I decided to take my nutrition degree from my culinary program and just my cooking knowledge and then my healing knowledge. And I became a thyroid and autoimmune expert. And, we have a community of 100,000 people there, and I've helped thousands of women reverse thyroid disease naturally. Well, while this is all happening, while I'm a thyroid and autoimmune expert, my friends and other colleagues are noticing that I'm doing this successfully. I'm doing this in a sustainable way. Both my passion is being served and my, my financial sustainability is great. Like, I'm able to do what I love and make money doing it. So people started to come to me kind of behind the scenes saying, well, can you help me with this? Or I have this business idea. What do you think? And slowly but surely, I started realizing that I was becoming a really awesome business coach, and that I had this mind for strategy because of all the different businesses I'd been in. I've been in the more brick and mortar. I've been in the online space in a way that was really successful. And I've also seen the pitfalls of it. I've seen what's true and what's not, and what's being sold as like a get-rich schemes kind of to people. And so after a few years of just helping people behind the scenes do this business coaching, I decided to do it full-time with my full-time focus. So that's how just Mindful Mavericks as a business coaching service was born. And through that, this Mindful Mavericks magazine was born, because what I was noticing is that a lot of people have these beautiful ideas, but they have fear about launching their great vision, or they have money blocks, or they have a fear of failure, or a fear of success, or they just get overwhelmed by all the to-dos that you have to do to make a business successful. So what I wanted to show with the magazine is that there is just not one way to be successful. There's just your way to be successful. And that if you make a plan for it and have a strategy for it, you can show up in your business the way you want, not the way everybody tells you. Like, you don't have to be a best-selling author. You don't have to be on daytime TV. You don't have to have an online course. You can, of course, you can have all of these things and be successful, but you don't have to have a certain number of things or follow one formula to be successful. So the magazine is really an inspiration for small business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, to see that a lot of people have these ideas maybe that even seem crazy, and they've been able to be a success because they had a vision, they created a plan, and then they went for it. So that's my story.
That's a beautiful story, and that's very refreshing, because for myself as an entrepreneur developing my business, I get so overwhelmed, scared, confused, because one is saying you have to do it this way, the other one, no, scratch it this way. And then until I really was able to sit down on my meditation cushion and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to get my instruction from the big boss.
Yeah.
Then I got into peace, because like you're saying, there is not one way to do it. And tell me if I'm wrong, but what I discovered for myself is that as long as I am passionate and turned on by whatever is the next step that I'm going to take, that's what's going to work. And otherwise, I'm going to paralyze myself and I'm going to procrastinate. Is that
Absolutely.
the main ingredient, like to be really enthusiastic about what you want to do?
I think passion is number one, because I've done things by, quote, the formula for other businesses where I wasn't aligned and I wasn't passionate about it, and it never worked. And the minute I was passionate about something I wanted to do and I was fully aligned and really clear on what it was, everything just falls into place. Everything happens. The connections come, the collaborations come, there's an ease around it when you're in alignment with your vision versus just like, oh, I need to make money. So these people say to make money, you do these things and then you'll just make money. I think that is a recipe for disaster versus if you're super passionate about something and then just creating a plan around it, it happens.
So about the money factor, because a lot of people have this block about the word money, like they have some negative association and they don't even know it. Consciously, everybody wants money, everybody. But unconsciously, we have our self-worth set at a certain level, and sometimes focusing on I'm going to be a millionaire is actually going to block you because you're reinforcing that negative association behind the curtain. What's your approach? Because I know you're very practical based on what you were explaining. You put in place a strategy and you infuse it with passion. Can we just go with that and even forget about the monetary aspect for a while until we have a healthier relationship with money? Or what would you advise somebody to do?
Well, I think there's a little bit of that for sure, that you have to, if you're always just focused and striving and hustling and trying to get money, you're really almost closed because you're just trying to hold on to money. But if you kind of release it and surrender, you actually open yourself up to become a channel to receive money, right? But you can't just sit there and write yourself a fake check for $5 million and think it's coming to you. That's not going to happen. You have to have a plan of sorts. But I think two things. I think one, if you have strong money blocks, and I know I used to, I grew up in a family where it was always like, there's always worry about money, or worry, could we afford it? Or we really can't afford it. Or if you bought something, like you had to treasure it so much that you didn't really get to fully enjoy it. So that was where my money blocks. My husband has like a different set of money blocks where it's like save, and then die. and then, and then there are people who they just want the millions, but they don't really want to do anything. And so they're constantly like striving and hustling, but they're not really opening themselves up. So I think you have to do two things. Like first, you kind of have to if you're passionate and you have a plan, you can really put all that money nonsense, all that money chatter in your head aside and just really give space to let things come to you. At the same time, if you have some deep rooted, there's worthiness obviously in money. Like some people don't feel that they deserve money. Some people feel, I had this problem a long time ago in thinking, well, if I'm of service to people, then I can't actually charge from, like I shouldn't take money if I'm really being of service to people. But then how am I going to eat?
Yes.
How am I going to have a place to live in? So I had to overcome that money hurdle. And so different people have different things. It's worthiness. It's, believing money is bad or the root of all evil, or it's how you were raised to hold on to money. So I think you do have to address your money blocks, number one. Like, I think if you really want to be successful in business, not only do you address your money blocks, but any fear blocks, just anything that's holding you back, address those, because they will continue to arise if you don't address them. But on the other hand, I'm with you in that you kind of have to put the money thing over here and really just focus on your vision and your passion and your dream. And then it will come. I mean, I know people think that's cliche that, if you love something, the money will come. But really it will. if you've made a plan. Not I love to eat. I can't just sit there and say I love to eat and then money to come. I got to have a plan. If I want to live to eat, then I become a food journalist or something so that I can be paid to eat.
Yes, and even as far as the meal, you love to eat, but the meal won't come on the table by itself. You have
no, right.
Wouldn't that be great?
It would be great.
So you help people with that? Is that something you address in your coaching as well?
Absolutely, because almost everybody comes in, even unknowingly, with some sort of money block. So, I have a really detailed application before I work with somebody to really get at what they want, what they need, what their vision is. And in there, that's when you start to see those money blocks that they might not think they are. And so that's like the first thing we address when we even start our strategy session, is like, okay, let's deal with this and let's get this out of the way. So now we can really focus on our work.
Because I coach people on dating, on love, on relationships, and I see that you cannot compartmentalize yourself. No. The way you are in one area is going to be the way you are in all areas.
Absolutely.
And I know that for myself, like you said, we analyze what's going on, and based on the results that they get, we get some clues about what's going on behind the curtain of their conscious mind. Because most people don't even know about the conscious mind and the subconscious, and they think they want money, so they don't think that they have this thing going back there and saying, I don't deserve it, I can make more than my parents, or whatever the case is.
Right.
For love, it's the same thing. I don't deserve the partner that I really want. So starting with a questionnaire or a form like you're doing, and really going deep in what is the situation today is amazing, because that brings the picture in front of your eyes, and people, when they start seeing it on paper, they're like, wow.
Right.
I didn't realize. That's the reaction I had. I coached someone yesterday, and I had her do an exercise, and when she looked at it, she was an exercise to uncover her subconscious programs about men. And she was like, wow, that's really negative. I said, yeah, that's why you're not attracting the person that you really want. So
right.
Same thing in business. And so I suspect that because we are a whole human being, all your previous experiences, first of all, the psychology background, I mean, you can't beat that to coach people. But even the culinary background and the knowing how to cook, what role does it play? Because I'm sure it plays a role in the way you are coaching people today. Just also knowing how to appreciate the ingredients of a meal, for example. I don't know. Do you see a correlation, a link?
I see the correlation in the fact that it's self-nourishment. It's how you treat yourself. So, because I became a chef, and I should back this up. I grew up in a part of America where food is not very much appreciated. I'm in the Midwest. Everything is bread and cheese. Everything is processed, highly sugared. It's all the industrial food that we have. And that was my set point. So when I first was growing up as an adult, let's say, I didn't actually do a lot of cooking for myself. I didn't really appreciate whole foods. I didn't even appreciate where food came from, the earth, the animals, all that kind of stuff. So, when I moved to California from the Midwest, my eyes were opened on a totally different way of eating, because in Los Angeles, people are so healthy, so health conscious and food conscious. And that was my first introduction to what really food is and what it can represent. And then obviously moving to Italy and having that food culture there, that changed everything for me, because you could have 3 ingredients on the plate and have the most amazing, mind-blowing meal you've ever had in your entire life, because those ingredients were the best they could be, the freshest they could be. And what's different, I feel, from Europe than the States is that great food and great ingredients are available to all people in Europe. And whereas in the States, we have sort of a tier, like if you have a lot of money, you can afford organic, you can afford all the really good whole foods. And when you don't, you're kind of left with a lot of industrial foods and processed foods, kind of like fill your belly. So where I see this really come in when it comes to business coaching or strategy, or like you were saying, like how you do one thing in your life is really how you approach everything, right? So whether it's love or money or healing or business, your mindset around those things, how much of it is a victim mindset, how much of it is a worthiness mindset, how much of it is a, I am worthy and I go for everything, really plays into it. But self-love really plays into it, and self-nourishment plays into it. And to me, self-love and self-nourishment are part of a whole package. And so food plays into that in the way that I've always viewed food, since understanding it better, as pleasure, as what do I want for myself, how do I want to treat my body, and how do I want to treat my life. Because obviously living in Italy, they have a little different lifestyle than the go, go, go of the United States. And so I really learned what makes a full life, or at least for me, what feels like a full life for me. And cooking is just one connection to that full life. It's nourishing myself, it's nourishing my family, it's nourishing my life. So I think that plays into business strategy and creating and crafting the business that you want, that's going to let you live the life you want. Because so much more in the end, we think we want money, but really what we want is to be able to afford the experiences and the things that we want, the time with our family, maybe time to travel. We want more than just money. Money sitting in a bank does nobody any good. It doesn't do anything, right? But so that's where I feel food plays into it. It's about nourishment, and it's about how do I want my life to be, and passion. And that's exactly the same way you would approach your business. Like, how can I create a business that nourishes me? How can I create a business that's in service to others? How can I create a business that sets my life up so that I have the schedule I want to raise my family, or to travel, or to do the things I want? So I think that's how it's all connected.
Great, great. And do you have, like, I know I created a vision for my business I have a big poster where it's not really about my business, it's about my lifestyle, including my business in it, how many days I want to work a week, where do I want to live, everything together with the business incorporated in it, so that I don't become a slave to my business.
Right.
So, and I don't think that people really realize that when they are in the day-to-day doing and being the CEO of their business. Do you have your clients also have a bigger vision than what they need to do to get to the next level?
Oh, yes. So after they do the application process, then, once we get started, we start with this discovery questionnaire that really helps them to discover and clarify, what is it that I want out of life? And my questions are specifically designed to say, not what do you think you should do? Not what is everybody telling you to do? What do you want to do? And it unfolds through this questionnaire of, what it is. And I had a client recently who was just, her mind was blown at the thought of, like, what? I don't have to have an online course to be successful. And I was like, no, like, we could do this, we could do that. And so then it felt more authentic. Or another client who really loved dance, and she just couldn't understand how dance could be a part of health coaching. And then through that, we really talked. So I do take people through a process of discovery, because a lot of times they come in thinking one thing, and then they come out when they really see on paper, this is what I actually want for my life. We build what do I actually want for my life?
Yes.
That's the real plan we're building.
And that's really great, because when I relate that to me, you know how everybody says you have to do calls and strategy calls, and I suck at selling. I don't like selling.
Yes.
I love helping. I love coaching. I don't necessarily like to do a call where I'm going to bring the person to enroll me to be her coach. And then somebody told me, you don't necessarily have to do the calls. You can have something online that will bring them with some free classes to see the value of your coaching. And then if they want to hire you or not. To me, that was such freeing. That was freeing, because I was tensed at the idea that I have to have strategy calls, which are in fact sales calls.
Right.
All my body was tensed. So I guess the reaction that this woman had when she realized that she didn't have to have a free class, do you get that often? Are people surprised that they can do whatever they want and be successful? I mean, with a strategy in place, but something that they feel aligned with? Do they get really surprised by that?
They do. And I mean, through this process, and I think why it's been so successful is that people do now they're breaking open and they're just like, oh wow, I don't have to play by these rules. I mean, that's why I named my whole company Mindful Mavericks. It's being mindful to what you want in your life, but it's also being a rule breaker and rebellious and saying, I don't have to follow this script. And it really felt inauthentic to me to ever do a sales call. I've never done one in the history of my career. I cannot get on the phone and try and sell somebody my service. I have to serve first. I want to create a connection and a collaboration. And over the years, all of my clients have come through referral because people have had big ahas. People have been shocked at what they can do and what they can create. And they've come to me that way. Now, in the thyroid and autoimmune coaching business, much of what you were just talking about is what I did. I didn't want to be on the phone trying to sell people. It made me immediately tense, right? And it just didn't feel authentic to me. So I thought, I can't do that. But what I decided to do was, offer my book for free so people could learn my story and be empowered with some techniques that way. Or I did a quiz and then that had some free coaching. And it was like, hey, and if you want to have more private coaching with me, here's what I can offer you. But it was never, I'm going to be on the phone call. Okay, 20 minutes, we're going to talk about this. And the last 10 minutes, I'm going to pitch you on working with me. I can't do it that way. But you know what? There are people who thrive on that and who are natural salespeople. And that's the way they can connect. They can give people ahas in their phone call, and those people will connect to them and they're able to sell them, and it doesn't feel yucky. So it's not really the process, any of these things that are bad. I mean, there's no judgment on it. It's not one is good or bad. It's what is more authentic to me. What is the way I want to show up in the world? So, I mean, we really have to approach it like that, because I think there are mega talented coaches out there who do get on the phone and they do have that call and they are able to, quote, sell their services at the end. But that's because they've given so much value in the call and they're so comfortable with this mode that it works for them.
Yes.
But it would never work for me because I would never, that's not where my mind is. That's not how I can do it. But so I created my way of doing it and it works. I mean, at this point in this business, which, each business has been a little bit different, this business, it's all referral. Or if somebody finds me online, they apply first and I see if we're a fit. And then I say, let's talk. Okay. And then let's meet to see if we're a fit before we ever start working together.
Yes. And it's really something that people need to hear, that because with all those programs that are out there, with people who are really, really competent and talented at building a business, and they can teach a lot, but when they put you in a frame that is too rigid, that you can't feel yourself, it's playing against you. Because for me, it kills my genius as a coach to know that I'm on the sales calls. I have a friend, she can sell when she sleeps. So for her, it's the perfect fit. For me, just knowing that it's a sales call in disguise, all my coaching genius goes away. I'm tense, I'm not free, I'm not channeling the great information. And my intuition is not there. Talking about that, how do you believe, first of all, in energy, and do you use that in your coaching, even if you don't really mention it or describe it this way, because some people are afraid of these kind of terms? Is it something that is part of what you're doing, or you just do it for yourself?
Yeah, it's completely infused in every part of my life, including my business. So, I mean, for myself, I really feel like going through that traumatic car accident really opened me up to energy and what happened. And I had like a real woo-woo moment in the middle of the car accident that really opened my eyes to energy
Yes.
And one thing I learned through just working as the health expert was that the energy of the person really affected how they were going to heal. If they were coming from a victim mentality or victim's energy, or if they were coming from an I'm going to empower myself to heal, those two vibrations are completely different. So one thing I really learned from that process is that energy really matters, and energy matters in healing. It matters in business. And so when I opened up my business strategy business, I decided I wouldn't work with people that had a specific type of energy because they're not ready yet. And I wanted to work with people who were really ready and didn't need to be convinced that they should start their business, that were ready to start a business. And that's a different vibration. So I work on energy with energy myself, and in terms of becoming more aligned and open and compassionate and just vibing at a certain level. And then I also look for that in my clients, that they're vibing at that level where they're not trying to put obstacles in their way. They're trying to break the obstacles that are in their way. So I think it's infused. I have different clients that, some are completely woo-woo like me, and we can jam on that frequency. And then I have others who are more, that they don't really want to talk about energy. They don't really think about it. And we just keep it, pretty straightforward. But throughout it, I'm feeling what they want, what their essence is, what they're trying to get to. And that just gets translated through the business plan without it being something that we talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So if there was one first step that you could give people today is to start attracting, because the sentence you said, you attract people who vibe at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the goal of every entrepreneur, to attract their tribe, their people.
Right.
How do you start doing that? Is it by visualizing the kind of clients that you want in your business? What would be the first one step to start doing that?
Well, I think it's getting very clear on who is your ideal client. And it sounds cliche, but I think that is the foundation of everything with your business. So for me, I just kept doing kind of worksheets or working out myself, like, what is it that makes my ideal client the ideal client? What is it about them? Like, who are they? Who do I want to work with? And so first, it's just getting clear, because if you're not clear on that, then anybody's going to come to you, and then you won't. Especially if you're feeling money scarce, you're just going to take anybody, and then you're going to have a bad experience, and they're going to have a bad experience, right? So I think, to me, the first step is that you get very clear on who your ideal client is. And then you really start creating a community or an environment or a way that they can connect with you directly, where you're kind of putting out that signal, like, I want this. And so there are a lot of different ways, I teach people to do that based on, what is their type of business. But for me, I do it in the fact that, like, I have this long application on my site. If somebody's not even willing to fill out the application, they're not ready to do the work to make their business a success. So you can attract your ideal client by doing little things, and it's like micro challenges to filter who is really on your vibe, and you do it with your website copy. How do the words you use. There were years ago when I had my thyroid business, I actually still have it, but when it was really at the beginning of it, I had written a bunch of copy, and I realized, months down the road, I was getting a lot of victim mentality and people who didn't want to invest in their health and people who didn't want to even invest in themselves. And it was because the copy I'd written was all about enabling people. It was like, I'm here for you. I do all the work for you. I hold you. And it basically attracted people who just wanted to stay sick or stuck and, like, enabled. And then when I changed the copy, all of a sudden the right people started coming, the people who were ready to, like, take their health into their hands and get better. So there are so many different ways you can filter that out. But first you have to get very clear. That's the first step. Who it is that is the perfect client or customer for me.
Okay. And if you could go back with what you know today in your business to several years ago when you were just starting, what would you tell yourself? Because I know that from my personal experience and everybody I talk to, we have different kinds of fears at the beginning, then we overcome, and that's I'm not even thinking about that today. What would you tell yourself like 10 years ago or whenever you started?
Well, I think fear is it. I mean, it would be to not let fear rule me, because there were different times. I had so many opportunities that came up over these years. And sometimes I let some sort of block or fear or story I was telling myself hold me back. And my only regrets in life have been the times where I let fear rule me and I didn't get to experiment with a certain life experience. And, I've never regretted trying something that I even failed at. If I was afraid and I tried it and it didn't work out, I still didn't regret it. But I've only regretted in my personal life and my professional life the opportunities where I didn't go for something because I was afraid. So when I think about my younger self, I would probably tell my younger self to, sit more with myself, get clear on what I want and just not to give into the fear or to work through the fear. So, probably definitely since the accident, I have not, when you come very close to dying, and you realize you have a second chance, you realize how little time we have and how we don't know when we're going to leave this plane. And so that there's no time to waste. But on the same token, I've had some opportunities where big opportunities that I completely turned down, and they weren't fear-based. I didn't turn them down because of fear. I turned them down because they weren't in alignment with me. So there's a distinction there I think is really important. You have to sit with yourself and figure out, is this fear? Am I not doing this because I'm afraid of X, Y, or Z, or is it just like this isn't a fit and this doesn't feel authentic to me? So I think that's important too.
But even in that second case, there can be the fear of missing out. Like, oh my God, I'm going to say no because I don't resonate with it, but what if nothing else comes? So there is still this element of fear that you have to work with.
Absolutely. But that's why you have to get to, is this a fear of missing out? I mean, this one opportunity, I turned down 2 opportunities that on paper people would have thought, you are insane. Why would you turn this down? This could launch you here or there. But neither of those, I got a no in my body. I didn't get a yes. But then I thought, am I crazy? All my colleagues are doing this. All my peers are doing this. Am I missing out by not putting myself out there in this way? But in the end, in my mind, it was like, if my body wasn't giving me a yes, because when I do want something, I do it, right? Yeah. And when you have an opportunity or opportunities fall in your lap and then you don't do them, and there's not a fear you can point to, you have to say, is this in alignment or not? But you're right. I sat there for a minute and had a fear of missing out. And then I said, is this a fear of just not doing what all my peers have done? And is there an egoic fear? Because, your ego, if you're on a national TV show or you're speaking in front of hundreds of people, that's really good for your ego, So I had to sit and say, is this for my ego? Is this for me? Is this what I want? So I think there's something in that too.
Yeah. So I guess you have to cultivate that too, because I know where the yes is in my body. I know how the no feels. But if you're not connected enough to yourself to even know that, then you're in trouble, because you can get your own guidance.
So, absolutely. Yeah. You have to, I think, especially in this crazy busy world, and there's stimulation coming at us at all times. And we don't even have a normal, I'm in my 40s. So there was a day where I had a normal schedule. I grew up with a normal schedule and peace at night, and there weren't cell phones, and there wasn't all this 24/7 connectivity. Now we're living in a world where you never get to shut off. You never get to shut down unless you almost have to force it into your life. You have to create space for it into your life. And I think that's kind of the missing part, and why a lot of people are overwhelmed is that they don't sit with themselves. They haven't cultivated what is a yes for me, what is me, what is not me, what is for me, what isn't for me, what is my fear. People just don't take the time to sit. And so I feel like that is a really crucial element for healing, for your business, for your personal life, is carving out those times to sit so that you can cultivate the gut instinct. I think we've lost our intuition quite a bit because we're not as connected to ourselves or nature anymore.
And that's yeah, totally. That's something that you have to consciously do because life will push you there.
Yes.
The way things are today. Which brings me to one of my favorite topics, self-love, because to me, this is part of self-love, to carve this time out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What is your definition of self-love?
Well, to me, self-love is like first acknowledging that you are worthy, you are deserving, and showing that to yourself every day by, number one, not shaming yourself when you make a mistake, it's also like going after the life that you want. It's standing up and using your voice when something doesn't feel right and really expressing yourself. And, like we were talking about, it's taking time out of your day to care for yourself and to get your needs met. Because as women especially, your mother, your wife, your daughter, your businesswoman, and we often, because of this 24/7 on-callness of our lives, we don't take care of ourselves. So to me, self-love is as like entwined with self-care as well, and saying I deserve to take time for myself, to nourish myself.
Yes.
Yes.
So I suspect it plays a role in your business. What role does it play in your business to be able to do that?
Absolutely. It's played a major role in my business. Self-love has really always been the fuel that has always helped me, kind of follow my dreams, cultivate my dreams, get clear, and not follow everybody else's script. Because I think originally years ago, I mean, my parents wouldn't say this now, and they've been supportive of everything I've ever done. But I think years ago, they kind of bought into the formula and they were like, okay, you need to go to college and then you need to become a lawyer or you need to become a business person. And that I think self-love has always been my way of being, well, like, no, that doesn't sound good to me. So I'm not going to do that. So, it's definitely been infused for myself in a way of, being able to have choice in my life. But also when I was a thyroid and autoimmune coach, self-love was really the foundation for my healing and my healing program. I wrote an entire book called Healing Hashimoto's Naturally, which was like the foundation of it is how I use self-love and self-care to heal myself of Hashimoto's, and how other people can do that too. There's a component, and I see this a lot having such a large community in the thyroid world, where people will say, I've done everything. I've tried everything. I've been to every doctor. I've done everything you say. But when we really get down into like a piece of their life or what's holding them back, there's often a self-worth issue. And they are not loving themselves. They're doing for everybody else in the world. They're not giving themselves time to rest, time to heal, time to care for themselves. So I feel like self-love has played a huge role like in that journey. And then, in my business, as Mindful Maverick, self-love is just infused everywhere because I think over the years, I've really cultivated that in just my being. So, with the one-to-one coaching and the magazine to inspire people to kind of like follow their dreams and follow their own script, my entire why of Mindful Mavericks is to respect and love yourself, enough to show up in the world in the way that you want, in your business in the way that you want, and in a way that feels really authentic and nourishing to you. So I think that's how it really shows up in all of my businesses. And I use self-love just to honor myself so that I can show up fully for my clients and my community, from this like place of compassion and clarity and gratitude. Because if I'm not taking care of myself, I literally don't have the energy to give to my clients, to my son, to my husband, to the world, So I think self-love is a crucial component.
Yes, I know it's very cliche, but if you're not full, you have nothing to give. You give on
Right.
empty. You can't continue like this.
No, you can't.
So what is one practice of self-love that you incorporated successfully in your life on a regular basis? Like for me, I have meditation to stay sane. Otherwise, I'm going crazy. Like you were saying with the kids, the business,
I know, all the coming and going. Well, I mean, meditation for sure is on my list, but one of my big self-love practices is carving out just time for one of my own passions, which I think, especially as mothers, we don't really get a lot of time to do. But in general, because life can be filled with busy things, I think even if you're not a parent, there's a lot of lack of time to do. So, you know, for me, my big passion is Italy, the food, the culture, the language. So like every week I drive an hour down to my Italian language class, and it's like a book club and discussion class. And every year I negotiated with my husband that I take a 2 to 3 week solo journey to Italy
that's
by myself so that I can connect to me and I can just be, because we just often don't have the time to just sit and be without the distraction of work. So I shut myself down for 2 to 3 weeks a year. I eat my way through Italy and I reconnect to myself because, you know, as a busy mom, a wife, a sister, a daughter, an entrepreneur, so much of my time is spent like supporting others. So this is my favorite way to show myself love, you know, and to reconnect with myself and with all my roles as a person. So that's my big way I do it. But also every single day, I meditate for a few minutes. I write in my journal. I eat food with pleasure instead of with guilt. You know, I definitely just eat for pleasure. And I meet up with my friends. So what my thing is that every day I do a little thing that's nourishing to my mind, my body, or my spirit.
And that's actually sending the message to life, to the universe, to God, whatever you want to call it, that you deserve it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah.
It's a major message.
Yeah. I'm worthy.
You've seen Eat, Pray, Love?
You know, this is the crazy thing. I have not seen it or read it, and every single person in my world is like, you have to see or read this book. So I haven't yet.
Because the going to Italy part, you're gonna resonate with that.
Okay.
I love Elizabeth Gilbert as a writer and a speaker, and I love the movie.
Oh,
So
good. I'm going to watch it then.
you're gonna see the part about food. You
Okay.
have to see that movie. So before we part, I always ask my guests if they want to leave our listeners and our viewers with one gem to help them. For you, it would be with their business or their business and their life. What would you like to leave them with?
I think it's really to sit with yourself and just get clear. Get clear on whatever it is, whether it's, you know, a challenge going on in your family or with your own identity, with your business, you know, with any sort of relationship, just whatever the challenge is, just honor yourself enough to give yourself a moment to get clear on it. Because once intention is set, things will fall in line. But when you just sort of let life happen to you, you just you'll lack fulfillment in some way. But when you get clear, things tend to work themselves out in a way that would be pleasing to you, you
Yeah,
know.
yes. That's funny because this week I went to a networking event and I won something. I won a segment in a show. And I tend to forget, I'm a Capricorn, so I tend to forget that you can make things happen if you work on the energy side of your business and not always on the action. And I made myself a mantra, which I'm going to put everywhere in my house: 40% action, 60% energy.
Oh,
So
I love it.
I called it 40% action, 60% miracles.
Oh,
So that I don't forget, because I tend to forget. So that's perfect. That goes with what I lived. Of course, things are always resonating and vibrating at the same level. I was going to interview you this week, and that's what happened. So I'm not surprised. Nothing is random. I want to ask you if people want to contact you or find more information about what you're doing. where do they need to go?
They just go to mindfulmavericks.com. So it's
Okay.
with an S. Somebody else owns mindfulmaverick.com. Don't go there. Go to mindfulmavericks.com. You'll find the magazine there. You'll find more about what I do there, and everything's there.
And I will put the link in the description of this.
Oh, great.
I want to thank you, Jen. That was really a very, very rich and nice interview. And I resonate so much with everything you're saying. So I love it. And I wish you even more success. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was so fun talking about all this great stuff.
It was really fun.
Yeah, thank
you. So for our viewers, I'll see you again in 2 weeks. And go check Jen's magazine, because I had a look on her magazine and I'm going to sit down today, take time for myself and read some of the articles. Check that out. That's really a nice magazine, a beautiful one.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
For questions or to apply for an interview, visit datelikeafrenchwoman.com.